I dodge to the left, you see the animated character run to the right, and he goes and takes it out. And I'm experiencing all of this in VR, and it was so awesome because, like, number one, I made it, so it's like, wow, I'm actually in the world I built. And number two, you can experience it from so many different angles. And I was like, wow, this could be like the future of filmmaking, right? Like, imagine you're watching Hardcore Henry and something, you can actually go in and experience it for yourself.
Today, my guest is Demo Akuro, a game cinematic director and trailer maker known for creating striking in-game trailers and cinematics in Unreal Engine. His work sits at the intersection of filmmaking and game development. Demo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for having me.
Man, how do we even start to define virtual reality? I've used it. I've tried it. I will go back all the way back to when you had those like headsets where you put the phone in them, and that they called that VR, right? And then you get like the Oculus, and now we're here today. How do we define it?
It's funny because a lot of my friends still think that's what VR is. It's like just the Google card box, I think they call it. But for me, it's a medium, another medium to express game design. So the big reason why I got into VR is because with flat screen gaming, it's really awesome because you have a certain amount of fidelity you can push, but it's not as expressive as actually being in a headset and being able to move around. And I kind of see the headset as a camera, instead of just a lens for the character to see through. So for me, it's a really awesome medium to explore worlds in a way that you can't really touch anywhere else. Like you're there, you're right in it, and that's really what hooks me in.
It's because like you're looking at the world through the first person viewpoint, right? Like there's when you're looking at a traditional movie, you're pointing the camera at like subjects, and you're almost restricted to that view and scene. But when we talk about VR, you've got the whole 3D image around you. Technically, you can do what you want.
Yeah, it's a very subjective experience because let's say hopping into it was a very I always did it with a film cinematic mindset in mind. So a lot of the times when I'm going into VR, I'm not really playing a lot of the games just to play it. I'm trying to see what I can get out of it from like a cinematic experience. And in filmmaking, they have two different types of storytelling. They have objective storytelling and then subjective. And subjective is when you're sitting within the actor themselves and seeing the world through how they experience it. You're feeling the things they do. If they're drugged up, the lens is drugged up, everything is very super immersive. Playing a lot of first person games, you get that element of immersion because let's say for example Battlefield or Call of Duty, there's a lot of stuff they do with the post-processing effect to make you feel like you're there from the first person perspective. So VR was a really, you can't get more immersive than that. Because if something's happening to you, if someone jumps in front of the screen, like even normal games can just feel way scarier because of the presence of actually being there. But the thing that really excited me was just the post-production side of it, because there's certain limitations with the tech where you can't do, camera shake or like a depth of field, all these kind of things because it will disorientate the player. But being able to take that footage, put into an editor and do crazy stuff with it, it's kind of like recreating like a hardcore Henry or like a Call of Duty cutscene. And I think there's a lot of fun in that. Yeah.
So what do you mean by post-production after? Because I imagine you're filming with the headset on, right? And then you're kind of, in a way, you're absolutely acting and directing in your own kind of movie. What happens in that post-production for you to make it even more? Because I would imagine that's already it, right? Like you're filming and you're moving around and your head's bobbing, or you're adding more stuff on top of it.
Yeah, I'm adding a lot. So the number one thing that really brings it to life is the sound design. So getting really visceral sound design to push that medium is awesome. But a lot of the times I'm adding things like lens flares, extra camera shake in certain bits. I'm adding like lens dirt. So let's say, for example, I dive on the ground in real life and then I dive on the ground in the game. I'd add like a bit of lens dirt splashing on the side of the screen. Things like that you'd find in traditional filmmaking. It's compositing, basically. So I do these things to sell the experience of what it could really be like, because devs have to have certain limitations to make that player experience feel smooth and accessible to them. If you add all these things in game, like I said, it could be quite disorientating, but since it's in post-production, I don't really have limitations as to what I can do. I can just try to make it look as cinematic as possible with color correction and all these different things. So yeah, it just brings. So for example, there's a time when I was making a Scorpion VR Blade and Sorcery video. So people that don't know, Blade and Sorcery is like a medieval sandbox that's just heavily moddable. So they had a Scorpion avatar for Mortal Kombat, and I was really trying to figure, okay, how can I get this guy that's essentially lighting people on fire, he's on fire all the time, full of rage, into a first person medium. And I went on this website called Production Crate, and this is when I was just started to learn like VFX and have an idea of how compositing works. And I was getting a bunch of like embers, green screen effects, like skeletons, all this kind of stuff, and then throwing it onto the screen. But I could easily get carried away because there's too much to you can't switch the perspective. So everything I'm seeing is what people are seeing. So I had to find a way to how can I get all these visual elements on screen without crowding the clarity of the video or film, I like to call it. So yeah, so it's always really interesting to see how far you can push the post production after you actually record some videos.
Yeah, man, because VR is, you mentioned it's disorienting, and when I went to Korea like 5 years ago or something, and I went to like one of those old VR game kind of arcades, and I remember I tried this dinosaur game where like you're shooting at dinosaurs and they just start creeping up on you, and
Yeah,
man, it was a game from like late 90s 2000s, like those clunky VR headsets, like the graphics aren't like that great, but
yeah,
it scared the living hell out of me, man. Like I
yeah.
remember seeing this dinosaur and like just freaking out, like putting the headset down. And how do you balance for that, dude? Because doesn't VR like make people like I've never fully experienced it myself, but I remember playing this VR frisbee game on the Oculus where like you're flying around in a jetpack and you try to catch like it's like Quidditch in the air. I can't explain it. And after a while, you feel a little bit like there's a little bit of motion, but I can imagine other people when they've told me like, oh, I always feel kind of a little bit, it's a bit too much. Do you balance for that? Like,
It's funny because so how I even got into VR in the first place is by watching someone like through Blade and Sorcery. So that was my kick into it, and I didn't really know about like the motion sickness side of things. And even when I heard about it, oh, I'm built different, it'll be fine, it'll be okay. I jump in. The first game I jump into is Blade and Sorcery. I've got like the mods. I have super jump, and I was put on my ass so quickly. I felt like disorientated and just sick. I started looking online. I said, okay, how do I build myself up to this? Because everyone's playing just fine. So I had to get like a fan. Like put some code on, and I was like playing like in little bursts, like 10 to 15 minute bursts. I didn't know about these comfort options, about like the vignette and all this kind of stuff. So it didn't take me too long to get used to it, but of course there's levels to it, right? Like playing something like Beat Saber and then moving into, I don't know, second Ace Combat, where you're like, flying around and doing barrels and rolls and stuff. You need some adaptation. But in terms of the immersion side of it, that was I think my biggest to phrase, I guess, wake up, or however you'd phrase it, is how like in horror films where someone's getting chased and they're running away, and then for some reason they just keep tripping over.
yeah,
Or just get up, just run. So I was playing, I can't remember the name now. I think it's called Paradox of Hope or something like that. It's like a horror survival game, a little bit like Metro Exodus, and the demo is out. And there's a bit where I'm underground and there's these big mutant rats that I'm fighting. And I was in my living room space at the time, was completely empty. It was just me and the VR headset and a couple of chargers. So I had a lot of space to move around. And I've like hearing this noise on the door, banging, and I approach the door, and then boom, jump scare happens. And I trip back in real life. This thing's approaching me, like domineering, coming towards me. I drop my gun in the VR game. I'm like scrounging around for it. I finally find the gun and like shoot it and roll off. I was like, oh, okay, that's why they trip over, because they're panicking. So having that, but if that was flat screen, that would not happen. I'm not gonna fall over my seat.
no, never.
I'll just be here. I'll probably like jump a little bit and then carry on. So yeah, like if it wasn't for me getting used to the comfort level, I wouldn't be able to have those kind of experiences. But yeah, for anyone jumping in, I'd say it takes like 3-4 days to kind of get used to it if you want to play the advanced stuff, and then you can really start having fun. Yeah, that's crazy.
Man,
really,
it
really
really
crazy.
it really tricks your senses. Like that's what it's kind of almost like a paradox, because like you want to move around, you feel like you can, but then you're in this confined space. So I'm always trying to imagine like how do you how do you design these experiences if like movement is technically limited and like you could swing your elbow and hit your funny bone against like a wall, right? Like anything can happen. How it's happened? How how do you design for that? Because it's weird. You want to be able to move. Maybe the future of VR is that you have way more free movement than you think. Like you've seen those crazy treadmills where like you can walk in like 360-degree.
Yep.
But I've always questioned like where do you think that goes?
Yeah, I've actually got a the running treadmill for like the locomotion side of things because I've used VR for mocap as well. There's a really cool app called VR Mocap Fusion where being able to walk in one space is really cool. But I do a lot of my own stunts, so I mean I do all of them, right? So I'll be doing like the flips and the slides and all that kind of stuff. You need space, you need that ability to move around, but sometimes I found it hard to kind of sit down and have long gameplay sessions. There's a lot of really awesome games I just haven't really had the chance to complete, like Batman Arkham Shadows or like a lot of these longer AAA titles, just because I find it hard to sit, like to stand up and move around for that long. So they do have, stationary. A lot of people just play sitting down. But for me, that's not really the way VR is meant to be experienced, right? Like you're meant to have the headset on and move around and really feel what that experience is like. So it gets my brain going to like Ready Player One, where they have these implants and they're just kind of going in and like their mind is connected with the movement in there. I don't know how far away we are from something like that. I don't know if I trust it. If they did have some tech like that, but yeah, it's tough designing experiences that give you too much freedom as well for certain games because for example, let's say you have like a full body IK in the game and everything has collision. For me, those kind of games, it's very difficult for me to get my head around because I can't move my legs to like avoid different physics or limbs on the ground. I think an element of restriction, whilst, so let's say like freedom of movement with your arms and your head and but then restricting, let's say, the animations or what the physics can be like. I think that gives you the best balance where you can really push the fidelity of the animations and how you can move around whilst also giving the player control. Too much control can feel freeing in a way, but it really limits the amount of people that can jump into those kind of games. So it's a very interesting design challenge, for one that I think devs are still trying to figure out. And it really depends on what genre you're heading into as well. Riven games don't have to worry about this at all, but action sandboxes and games that I wish would come to VR more. I'm always thinking like, oh, if I was to design a game like this, like how would I approach it? If I wanted to make well, they've actually figured, I was gonna say Mirror's Edge, but you've got what's it, Stride? They're figuring out that you can run on a spot. I have wanted to be like a God of War type game, where you're doing these insane combos and you jump into the air. But slowly and slowly, you're seeing people figure out, like Batman Arkham Shadows is a great example, actually, because when you're playing it in flat screen, he's darting from one side of the screen to the other. And they figured out how to do that with the locomotion, even when you're staying still. So, yeah, I think devs are doing a great job figuring that medium out. I just try my best to just do what I can with the tools given to me and the space.
So simply put, just so I can understand, when typically in VR, from what I understand it, you're using your head, of course, to move around and see around in 360 degrees. You have two joysticks in your hands, which allow you to handle objects, grab things, punch, whatever it is. And then you also have little joypads or joysticks on these that allow you to move because you can't really move yourself. But you also mentioned that you can potentially also move with your feet and move around in that space.
Yeah.
So what's the sweet spot for you right now that works the best? Because you can either give too much freedom or you can restrict it. But again, the immersion affects everything, right?
So for me, I'll switch it up. So for example, there's a game called Hard Bullet, which is basically you're like John Wick in VR. And if I'm capturing footage for trailers, or I'm trying to do like a choreography where I'm doing fist fighting with multiple characters, I wouldn't really use the analog stick to move around because I need to get the spacing right. So I do MMA. I've been fighting for like the last 7 years, and spacing is very important. And one thing I had trouble figuring out was if I go too forward, like the NPCs are running into me, you couldn't get enough space. I should pull off the moves that you do. It's a lot easier to control that with your raw body. So in those moments, I'd use my raw body and I'll just use the space available to me. The times I'd use a joystick is if there's something I'm trying to do that's more extravagant or just cover long distances. So if I want to like sprint and gain some more momentum, if I'm just doing general locomotion, it would help. Another example is playing the game like Tactical Assault, which is like a mil sim that teaches you how to clear rooms, CQB weapon manipulation, and in a room, you want to be really specific with your movement when you're clearing out rooms and pieing around doors. So once you're doing that again, that's a time when I'd use my body over using a joystick, and so I can actually like have little micro movements rather than like trying to adjust the joystick a little bit. So combining the two, I think, is always the best based on the situation. But yeah, even for the locomotion, I know you can turn your head with a joystick, but I've always preferred actually turning my head physically and moving around. There's some crazy people that like using hand dominant locomotion where like they move instead of moving an analog stick and your character's moving where your head's looking, it will move where your your right arm is moving. And I've always found that really weird. Like I've always thought that's not even how people move in real world, right? Like you look where you're going before you move in that direction. If you're fighting at MMA, if you want to control the body, you control the head. So I've always found it disorientating to like point where my hand is going. I could be looking this way, my hand is going this way, but I push there. Maybe for like a fighting game or something where strafing could be used, maybe. But yeah, everyone's got their own way of moving around. But I think the best way is, I think the way most people would set up the locomotion is like head for rotation and head for locomotion in terms of like translation. I mean, sorry, in terms of how you're moving around. That feels the most immersive to me in terms of translating that one-to-one life experience into a game.
And based on the y-axis of where your VR headset is, if it goes up or down, right? Like, does it know if you're crouching? Like, I'm wondering, like, you mentioned some more intense movements like a sprint or like a dive, you're going to use the joystick to program that. But when you're doing stuff in that large space where you're kind of using your body, what are the type of actions that you'd use your body? Because how does the VR headset know if you're crouching or if you're doing, I don't know if a slide maybe counts. I'm trying to picture you in a room with a headset on and you're acting out, because I've seen the stuff you do. Like you do some like really cool things like in these cinematic trailers and stuff. So like what are these actions you use your body for?
Yeah, so they'll do, so when you're first setting up your headset, you have a room scale where it can tell where the ground is. And then based on the height of your headset, the IK or the avatar will automatically go into the animation. So if I crouch in real life, then my body will crouch. If I jump in real life, my body will jump. But typically people don't jump. If they want to do jumps, they just bind it to a button. So they'll bind it to the right stick or the right button on the right controller, and you can get as much height as you need there. But for things like, this is cool because in a lot of FPSs, I'll say in modern day FPSs, meaning FPSs that have been made in the last, well, pretty much since Modern Warfare 2019, every FPS has like a tactical sprint. They have a slide. They have a cover system. These are things that need to be binded onto the controller or onto the keyboard. Whereas in VR, technically you can do that in any game, no matter what kind of game it is. And it's just about your physical ability. So, like some games have a slide built into it, like a game called Stride, like the free running game, stuff like that. But there's games I'm playing where people would enjoy watching the gameplay because I'm able to do these things. I'm able to roll with my headset on or do a slide and show these games in a different light. But yeah, a lot of the times you can just program the things to the stick, or your body will kind of adapt to it. There's some cool games like Breaches, which is basically like Rainbow Six Siege in VR, where even when you lean, the IK will split from your torso, and the torso will move by itself, and your legs will stay in place. So it's getting more advanced, the tech and how they're solving movement solutions. It's really, really cool to see. I'm wondering how else they could push it, but I don't know, man. We'll just have to wait and see.
Does it feel better when you do it? Like does it look better like from an action like standpoint, like
100%.
when you're doing the crouches, when you're maybe, I'm not saying I don't know if you roll, like imagining like all the crazy things, but you have a headset on, but it's just better than when it's programmed because it feels more realistic, like your head's moving around.
Yeah, 100%. I've got a crash mat, so I'll do be rolling. I'll be doing all that stuff, but
that's cool.
It's better for me from a filmmaking perspective because when the camera shakes or rotates, it feels one-to-one instead of trying to fake it. There is a lot of stuff I fake. So for some certain games, if I want to do like a jumping double front flip, I'm not gonna do that in my living room. So like I might be able to take the headset off and make it look as if I've done that and slot it back on, or I might push my chair back a little bit and make it seem like I'm doing something. But um, for me, whenever I'm creating the videos, I'm always trying to think about the experience of the person watching it and how can I translate what it feels like to be in VR to someone that's sitting down and watching. And the best way to do that is to actually execute those moves myself, and give them that in that perspective. Um, yeah, and it's really really cool, and it's more physical as well. I'm always trying to find ways to be burning calories even when I'm just chilling and playing games. So actually being able to move and having to crouch and um, it's easy to get lazy if you're doing like a long session, like 40 minutes. When you're moving around, you might just be swinging like this and not really being into character. But I really like staying in that mode as long as I can. So if I'm playing a military shooter, I'll try and keep my form good. If I'm playing a game where I'm using swords, I'll try and keep the form good. So um, yeah, so it's a lot more fun that way. And plus, I think it actually gives me an advantage when I'm playing, so let's say like contractors or tactical assault. If you're getting the body mechanics and the movement right, just like in real life, it's quicker to do things. It's quicker to aim. Um, yeah, I mean it's called virtual reality for a reason, right? So you should try and replicate reality as much as you can.
And you're an action coordinator. Like besides the fact that you're acting in these trailers and you're directing them. Whenever I watch like a Bruce Lee movie or some kind of fight scene, I'm always imagining like there's a coordination to it, man. Like there's a cadence of moves and highs and lows. Like how do you get to scripting that? Did you watch a bunch of these movies as a kid and then did you study it? Does it come to you naturally? Like I wouldn't even know where to start if I had to kind of choreograph a fight scene or like an action scene.
Yeah, yeah, it's a mix of everything. So growing up, I watched a lot of Jackie Chan. He's one of my biggest inspirations because it's a guy that just does everything. He can do free running and parkour. He's a martial artist. He directs, he writes, and I grew up watching just tons and tons of action films. Like I love the Transformers films and like base scale of action. I loved watching like I watched a lot of anime and just how expressive that can be. Being in combat myself, so um, like understanding the flow of combat was really natural for me growing up just because I watched a lot of stuff. But I started doing YouTube when I was really young. So pretty much when it came out, I was like, making videos almost instantly. Just playing games, trying to make it look cinematic as possible, like playing with my action figures, trying to like choreograph little set pieces between them. And constantly studying like the best in the game. So like Gareth Evans, he's a director for a film called The Raid. Have you seen The Raid?
I haven't seen The Raid. I think I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's like one of the best action films of all time. About this, the first one's pretty much this police squad that has to work their way up to the 30th floor to defeat the mob boss there. So it's like a video game in itself.
I'm writing this down.
Yeah, no, it's so good. It's so good. I think anyone that's close to me, I've shown them that film. Um, Captain America: Winter Soldier is another really great action film. Like everyone loves the highway scene with Bucket. So I've always studied these things and figured out like do, what makes a good action scene. Like what's the narrative of it? How does it flow? To really make it feel visceral and memorable for people. And then getting into games, it was cool because uh, obviously doing live action film and live action filmmaking, you have to have like a really strong team of people around you that have to be experts in each field. However, in game design and 3D, you can get away with a lot of that because you can just kind of like multiply yourself or like bring animation assets in or like animate certain things. So things I can't do physically, I can like keyframe animate and put that onto screen that way. So it gave me a lot of freedom doing it in games. One thing that was really tough to transition to was there was a video I made was a Scorpion versus Sub-Zero, and at this time I didn't know how to animate or use Unreal Engine or anything like that. So everything I was doing was just in this game and modding it. And I had this modder import a green screen in for me. So like when I was in the game, I'd like just dropped in this green screen and I'd set up the in-game camera a certain way, and then I'd do a move. So I'd do like a left, right, and then I'd go into the other character, switch the outfit, the in-game avatar, and then I'd block the left, right, or slip right, left, and I'd mirror it, and I'd keep the I'd like keep the fish and then overlay it in post to make it look like I was fighting. So I made this whole like 3 to 4 minute fight scene of Scorpion versus Sub-Zero, just cloning myself and trying to fight myself, which is the most rudimentary way of just being alone and just not having someone to actually like help.
I mean, dude, it sounds
help,
awesome.
Yeah, it was super tough, but like I was happy with the result. Like it looks janky, but it was cool. It was a really cool challenge, and I learned a lot about masking and like chroma keying through like doing that. But then obviously going into Unreal Engine and Unity as well, that really opened the door for me as to how much I could push the action coordination, because you have, especially in real time, you have control over everything. I can time the explosion. I can, if I do a mocap bit, if it did this action, I can slow it down and cut certain things out if it doesn't look a certain way. I don't have to fake getting hit. So in live action, you get the punch a certain distance away from the actor, and then they'll sell the hit in a certain camera angle. I don't have to do that. So it felt really, really freeing, and like some of the most fun I've had was for a video I made on Helldivers. It was a Helldiver VR video in Blade and Sorcery, where I've coordinated this whole action scene. So I've animated the whole thing, built the environment, dropped in a bunch of VFX explosions and stuff, and I've synced up all the movements between the characters, so you could watch it just from the side and just see everything play out. But I want to take it one step further and actually put myself in the film in VR. So what I've done is I have like a Helldiver next to me. We're fighting a bunch of automatons, which is the robots of the game. It's an enemy faction, and we're just spraying all of them down. We then jump over a rock together. This big, I forgot the name of it, but it's big, like walker. It's like an AT-AT from Star Wars, is shooting at us. I dodge to the left. You see the animated character run to the right, and he goes and takes it out. And I'm experiencing all of this in VR, and it was so awesome because, like, number one, I made it, so it's like, wow, I'm actually in the world I built. And number two, you can experience it from so many different angles, right? So maybe I want to be in a position of the AT-AT type vehicle itself and see it from that perspective. Maybe instead I want to see it from one of the soldiers on the side. And I was like, wow, this could be like the future of filmmaking, right? Like, imagine watching Hardcore Henry and something, you can actually go in and experience it for yourself. So yeah, it really opened the door for action coordination, and especially for helping me film multiplayer trailers, because obviously with single player it's just unpredictable with AI and whatnot. But with multiplayer, it's really, really awesome because, especially in VR, people have certain strengths and weaknesses in the way they move, so we can match up for each other. Right? So if I'm directing like a contractors multiplayer trailer or anything like that, certain people I might have holding one gun or doing something, another guy I'd have driving, because they actually have the motor skills, and it's just different. So that feels like you're being on set, especially a virtual set, and that's really, really cool to experience as well. So yeah, VR has been a really awesome medium to teach me lots of traditional filmmaking techniques and just communication and working with a team without actually having to like be there in real life physically. It's cool.
I mean, the amount of skills, dude, that you're telling me you have. I mean, you're programming, you're acting, you're directing, you're doing choreographing. Uh, you're coming up with all these different tricks, and I can't really think of anything truly like it, to the point where you have this freedom to do things that you can't do in traditional filmmaking. Um, Talk to me more about multiplayer, because like, what happens when you're doing it with someone else? Like you just mentioned, there might be another person with a VR headset, maybe on the other side of the world. You're connecting in this environment, but um, what about when it's like PvP? Like, do you see like a world where like people are going at each other like it's paintball, but it's in VR and there's like loads of crazy things going on around them?
Yeah, it's funny you use a paintball example, because I've literally done a PvP paintball trailer, and that was insane because, like, okay, so I've done a trailer for Contractors, which is a military shooter, but it's casual. Like, people can jump in and play. For people that don't know, Contractors is basically Call of Duty in VR. Like, it's heavily moddable. You can turn it into Halo, Star Wars, whatever you want. So that was cool. But then doing something like paintball, these guys are pros, professionals in real life, and the way they played and the way they moved was drastically different from anything I've seen. Like normally I'm keeping up and people are following my lead in terms of the skill in the game. I normally spend a lot of time with the games that I get into so I can show it at a really high level. But I couldn't keep up with these guys. They were just like sliding everywhere, diving everywhere. They were so accurate. There was bullet drop and everything, and they were super, super competitive. And that's when I was like, wow, like you could really translate your passions and your athleticism into VR and it will show. And yeah, filming that trailer, I went to play. I only played paintball a couple times, but I went to play um, during the filming, and there was a bunch of stuff they were doing in game that I started applying in real life, and I was just destroying everyone. And that was from things I learned from these professionals. You know, they're really, really awesome. So yeah, coordinating that was sick because you had people that really knew what they were doing. And like if I suggested some kind of strategy to them or something, they can execute on it, or they can advise on how it would actually be done. And yeah, same for tactical assault as well. I was working with military advisors and actual soldiers and people in the army to translate what they would move like, and everything came across well. And for games like that, where they have a certain niche, people really care about those things. So if you clear the room the wrong way, or like you're not using proper strategy, you're gonna get called out on it. So having that translate one to one and seeing people like, oh hey, that looks really legit. That's awesome. That's really awesome. It's very satisfying there. So yeah, there's just so many doors to how you can express yourself in VR. It's also funny just to see, like you can see who someone is through the way they play, and it's cool. You instantly know if someone's giving a headset to like their mom compared to like a professional paintball player or what it may be. So yeah, it's really awesome.
And that's why I'm honestly so bullish on VR, because I think of esports, like you mentioned, like people calling you out if you're not doing one thing. Like I picture like a League of Legends, right? Like if you're not doing the jungle camps the right way, someone will call you out. So then I think, all right, if the future of esports potentially are these like VR paintball battles, imagine how much more you can do in terms of like broadcasting the experience. Like in sports, we're constantly trying to find like new cameras. There's the ref cam, you got the spider cam or the sky camera just flying around everywhere. But it's all physical limitations because you got to respect the game. And like you're living in that physical world where you can't mess with it too much. But VR, you can move the camera angles wherever you want. You can experience like the camera of your view and then like your opponent's view and then going at each other from another perspective. And there's so much you can do from an entertainment perspective. And so I wonder, are we just limited right now by the hardware, which seems to be the running theme with VR, is that it's too clunky. It's got to keep getting kind of more powerful,
Heavy.
thinner. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, is it a hardware issue?
Yeah. Because so when I first got into VR, I was working with Live, and they had like some a sponsorship with X Lab, so they made this game called Veil, and it's like a competitive VR shooter. So we got flown out to Miami, and they were hosting, I think it was a world first VR esports tournament, and it was sick. Like it was so cool. You had people wearing the outfits, you see all the players in front of you, and they're all standing up and coordinating. You had 5 people on one side, 5 people on the other side. You had a massive screen there, and people were watching, and that was a really awesome experience. But looking back, I'm thinking, how would we approach something like that now? So you've already upped the level once by, instead of these players being a computer playing, or actually standing in front of the audience physically, and you're seeing them move. Um, but how about if the audience had VR headsets as well, and instead of watching the screen, like they could actually be in the game, and have these invisible cameras that they can fly around and see. And I mean, there might be problems with that as well, and maybe someone calls out where someone is through that. But these are all problems that come with when you're investing in new tech and trying to figure out new um, ways of experiencing something. You're gonna have these problems, but like there's so many avenues in terms of how we can experience it. And even when it comes to film, like imagine we finish a film and sitting down and we can pick up a headset and go back into certain worlds that they've developed, and like I don't know, like see things physically. That'll be really cool. Um, I think the thing that really stands out for me as well is that the tech is getting better. So in terms of the like visuals, how realistic things look, because that's a big part of the immersion. The believability is getting really cool, but the comfort still has a long way to go. Because even me, like, it can be like a pain. I just be like, okay, cool, let's jump in again, and it's like my job, right? So it could be a pain to have it on my head for a certain amount of time and be recording, and you need to stretch. So you've had people that have attempted to make it a lot more comfortable, like I think it's a big screen beyond or something, where it's like the world's smallest VR headset, like goggles. That's where we're heading, and I think that's when a lot more people will jump in. Because gamers are used to sitting down. Like, you want to play CS:GO or League of Legends, you're gonna be there for like 90 minutes, right? So you really need those comfort options there if you want people to be looking at long term.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like, I always try to imagine how can I apply virtual reality to World of Warcraft, or even when I was working on old school RuneScape. You'd have players in the Reddit community like taking kind of this Java kind of client game and just like turning it into VR, and it wouldn't look that great, but like people would actually try to do it. And I keep thinking, like, if we're trying to do like a Ready Player One where there's this like interactive world where people are role playing and everyone has like some kind of story and they're trying to beat like, I don't know, I just picture this role playing in immersive story. You got to have them sit down for 2 hours, 3 hours. I mean, gamers today like can pull huge shifts. You look at the streamers that are
Yeah,
playing. So how do you do that with? You got to have something so lightweight that you don't even notice it.
yes, yeah, exactly, yeah. Because for me, I just kind of do it in short bursts. But for recording, if you're recording a multiplayer trailer, like, you don't want to be gaming for 20 minutes. You want to be there for at least an hour or two filming. So that can be challenging as well, because everyone has their own limitations. There's some people that are way more comfortable staying in the VR headset than I am, and they could be there for like 3 4 hours in a row. For me, I'll be getting tired around like 45 minutes. I'm like, I need a break. Um, so that can also affect, your productivity, because if I'm in a shoot, um, a lot of times I'll just bring in like friends or just players I've met, and I'll get them a key and they'll help out. Um, but some people have a harder time keeping focus. So, like, I'm trying to just get stuff done so I can get in and out. But people kind of mess around and kind of get comfortable with the game and stuff, and that will eat into like the comfort time I have, because it's not even a thing of like I'm not happy to mess around and kind of just like goof around for a bit. It's just this painful, because like I have to move around and I actually be standing up physically and everything. So yeah, that needs to be figured out. So it's more accessible for people everywhere. I think they've done some studies on this, that most people don't play VR for more than 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And that's why a lot of games games that are like over 10 hours just don't get completed. It's kind of like when you get older as well. Like, for me, if a game comes out and they're like, it's 4 hours long, like, a lot of people, oh no, like, I'm like, yes, like, I don't have to spend too much time on this. I can enjoy this and move on, because my list for like movies and games, dude, is just so long in VR. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be an interesting thing to figure out. But like everything else, we'll get there. The community has come so far, in terms of the kind of stuff we've been able to produce and what's come out of it. And there's just a lot of pioneers pushing that envelope forward, to really show like what VR is capable of. And I think it's the future, especially for filmmaking. I think it's the future. Um,
Well,
it's one thing actually I was gonna say,
oh yeah.
was, so like with my studio Grimwolf, I'm really passionate about just making just awesome cinematics and trailers, and um a lot of things I do solo when I'm producing, and I work remotely with my team. So if there's something we need to get done, we just hop on a call, and all the different times as it's call. But translating plans over for larger scale productions can be tough, especially for something like mocap, because I do all my mocap myself. I should probably get some more help on that, just because the projects are getting bigger and it'll be easier. But one thing that's been like, it's like a kind of secret to my workflow is using VR in the pre-visualization stage. So there's an app called Mocap Fusion, where you can record your body in VR, and you save the state and you can see what you just did as a ghost. And that's really awesome if you're solo, because I can do an action, and instead of just having to remember and like kind of time it in my head, I can physically see myself repeating the action. I can do it again. And what's even more cool is that you can import. Let's say you build like a block out of your environment in Unreal or Blender or Maya, whatever you're using. You can import that into mocap fusion, go into your mocap suit, put the VR headset on, and instead of having to set real life markers around and kind of guessing the space and the measurements of everything, you can actually be in that space, in that set, physically, and everything's one to one, right? So as soon as I export that mocap data out, I know that if I move from A to B, it's going to get there. Um, so that's one thing I really want to include when I build my studio out in real life, is having VR be a more of an integral part of the workflow, because in CG nowadays, you know, if they're fighting Godzilla or some big raptor, they'll have a head there, or the director will just point like a marker and be like, it's somewhere there and it's doing this thing, so act alongside of it. Imagine if they can actually see it. I don't think any actor's going to want to wear like a big thing on their head when they're acting, but if it gets small enough and comfortable enough, I think that's going to be really awesome for motion capture.
It's like there's that behind the scenes when they were filming The Hobbit, and Gandalf, the actor, Sir McCallan, was like crying because at some point he just found himself acting alone behind a green screen and thinking like, this is not why I signed up to act. And like what you're telling me is that you can, instead of like seeing like a puppet head that like has like a couple dots on it that then the camera kind of frames as like the eyes and then does the whole graphic animation, you can have like real life Godzilla in front of you and like be actually scared. But but you need you need these glasses on. You need something so lightweight that you can also remove it in post.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe we could build holograms. I don't know, but I mean, we're getting close because we have LED screens now. So a lot of people are using the Unreal Engine LEDs, where they have these huge screens around the set, and they get the lighting in the background, and they'll literally just use that for compositing. So they wouldn't even use a green screen. So that's getting closer to what I was talking about in terms of, instead of having the actors guess where they are and acting, is because like I love watching behind the scenes videos, but it's so boring when you're just watching, I don't know, like Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
You're seeing the actors and it's cool, but then it's just green. It's just kind of kills the mood a bit. Like, it's cooler if they're actually in the set, or like they can see something, and it'll be way cooler for the actors as well to actually interact with Groot. You know, you actually see this tree monster in front of you, or Thanos right there. So yeah, I think they're really trying to figure that out. The LED screens is a step in the right direction, but I think having some kind of like visual tell, if people can wear mocap suits and armor and stuff like that, they can wear a couple glasses, right? To actually, if the trade off is actually being able to be in the world, so yeah, that'd be cool.
So where are we pushing the envelope on VR? Like, who are the pioneers right now that you mentioned? Because obviously VR over the past 15 years has gone through its ebbs and flows, right? Like its highs and then its lows. And where are people pushing the envelope with this technology?
I think the people that have done the most, no, I mean past Meta for, you know, developing a really awesome headset, and I mean, there's a lot of controversy about what they do with the studios and stuff, and I think that there could be big improvements there. But in terms of the hardware and actually bringing eyes to VR, they've done a great job. But I'll say Valve, like those are the people I'm really looking out for. No one's come close to the immersion factor of Half-Life Alyx and what that did for the industry. I mean, number one, yeah, sure they cheated by having an amazing IP, like a huge IP there, but they've also got a really, really great game that is highly interactive and brought that love for gaming back, where it's not just pretty visuals, but it's a very interactive experience. And with the announcement of it's called Steam Frame and the things that they're bringing, I'm really curious, you know, what they're going to be doing there in terms of pushing the tech forward. Because, like I said, I think the tech's there. I think it's just the games, and I think there's a lot of indie studios that, if with the right funding, can really do amazing stuff. You're seeing like awesome horror games like Alien, things called Rogue Excursion, or Skydance Behemoth, and we are fighting huge towering monsters, and Batman Arkham Shadows is another technical marvel. Everyone's wondering how they're going to figure out the combat system in that. So every now and again you get these gems drop in where they're answering they're answering questions that we've had in terms of how much can we get out of a VR game compared to a flat screen. And I'm still trying to figure it out. Like even I love playing hack and slash games, and they're all about how long can you air juggle someone and keep them in the air and keep that up. So, but then it comes along a game called Hellsweeper, where it's basically Devil May Cry in VR, where you can knock someone in the air and then you fly in the air with them. You can have different weapons and shoot them and keep them up there. So they're figuring these things out. I think as long as, I think it was Mr. Beast that said this. He kind of gave the analogy of like a purple cow. I'll use a pigeon because I'm from UK. So, if you're driving along the road and you see a pigeon in the sky, like you're not gonna think twice about it. But if it's a gold pigeon with wheels on it and a racing hat, then you're gonna look and it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna stand out, and you're gonna think about that. So it's the same thing for like content on social media. If you want to stand out, you want to do something that people haven't seen before. Same for games. You want to answer questions or innovate in ways that will make people build on top of that. And I think there's still a lot more room to do that in VR, which is really cool. But um, yeah, it's becoming a medium that I think the wider game industry can take a lot more seriously now in terms of what it's doing. But we still have a long way to go.
And I feel like we've always tried, man. Like you think back to like the old arcades, even the story I told you when I was in Korea, like we were trying to push this VR stuff for a long time. Like we wanted to have these immersive experiences, and whether it was like a driving game or kind of a shooter game, but it just feels like we kind of got relegated back to the screen, and that's the standard, which totally makes sense. But um, I'm trying to picture a future where you have these like really thin glasses, and I want to move into kind of this area of I'm starting to play around with Cloud Code, and I'm not trying to turn this into AI, but I do have to touch into if a bottleneck, and I'm wondering, is the idea that you can't create all these assets, and you're trying to create like a Roblox style environment, right? And then you can kind of generate some of these assets, and then with these really thin glasses, you could get a whole new generation of players that just want to experience stuff in a way that maybe the screen becomes boring one day. Maybe you just want to be in this virtually immersive experience. I can't help but think, where are we heading, right?
Yeah, I tried to think about whether VR will ever get to the stage, maybe flat screens. I just don't think that's gonna happen. But I mean, it might because people are already modding huge AAA games with like the UEVR mod and kind of getting into that medium. But I think it needs its lane, and it's going to dominate that lane, and it won't really be a thing that competes. It's just another way of playing games. Just like we have mobile games. Mobile games are financially, technically, well, they don't make more money than like flat screen games as a whole, but you might have COD Mobile, and that's generating hundreds of millions per month or billions in its first year. And it's just one medium. Or like we had the PSP that kind of came and go, or we have, the Wii, and it kind of comes and goes. I think it will just be its own lane, and we're going to have to see if it stands on its own two legs or not. But I think it will, just because in terms of AR, VR, AI, whether you like it or not, that is the future. We're going to have to adapt to it. These are tools that we're going to have to adapt into the workflow and be a part of. And I think with the right regulation, the right creativity, and the right minds behind it, it's just going to make things so much more awesome, so much more accessible to people to make really amazing AAA-like experiences. Yeah, we'll just have to see if it stands the test of time or not. But I'm feeling hopeful. But yeah, I do try my best to diversify. So, because a lot of times I was all into VR, just last year. But now I'm trying to do more stuff in the black skin industry. I'm trying to make more cinematics, just using just Unreal, just animation there, and trying to blend the two worlds, because I think this is an issue with a lot of people that have multiple passions as well. Like it can be kind of hard to pick a focus, because when it comes to VR, I feel really comfortable here, but when it comes to 3D, there's a big, like for me, if I invest in one, I'm going to be the best at it. But in 3D, it's just such a huge hill to climb. Like people are really, really, really talented. Been doing this for years. So I think the strengths there is finding unique ways to combine different mediums to make something unique, and that's what helps me in VR. Like I wasn't the best editor, but I found ways to combine all my passions into something that was unique. And it's the same with tech, and it's tech and where we're going with that. Like if we can combine what makes flat screen games awesome, and then what makes VR awesome, and then what makes AI awesome, and combine these things together. Like, what could we create for people that would make a really bespoke experience for them that will change the future of entertainment? I think, um, yes, that's something I want to be a part of, and I definitely want to be an innovator there. So, yeah.
I can totally tell that. And I'm thinking also you're trying to combine, like you mentioned, you do these crazy physical kind of feats in VR when you're wearing this headset and you're acting it out. You want to bridge, like if I'm playing League of Legends, I'm just using my mouse and keyboard. And yeah, there's like reactions and kind of high level strategy and just like know how of the game, but it's not too physical. Like you're still sitting down and you're using mental energy and coordination, like hand eye coordination. But I imagine you could have like a cross play with VR where like people can come in who are like physically like trained to like use this headset and do incredible things in game. And it'll be like the difference of like playing someone with a QWERTY and someone who's playing move to click, right click to move, right? And maybe it could be like physical and then like people who are using mouse and keyboard. And maybe there's this bridging, man, because
You already have that. You already have that because, like, you have on one stage, which is just like the crossplay. You know, people will tell if you're playing COD or Battlefield, whatever. You know when you're going up against a PC player. Like, no one's
yeah,
gonna snap you
exactly,
like that on a
exactly.
controller.
Yeah. They're just destroying us.
Exactly. But in VR, there's one game that comes to mind called Davago, where the PC player is like a small player and he's running around and he's trying to escape this player who's in VR and that can use their hands and they can grab debris from the ground and try and chuck it at them, or they can pick them up, or they can like swat away rockets. So basically feels like the PC player is having a boss fight against someone that's in VR. And that's where I see things really crossing over. So that's a really good point there, that there is an element where we're already kind of doing it already. And yeah, maybe even there's this rumor when you're playing Helldivers 2 that there's a role player there that he can take over the AI, and now he's like a player, but you feel like you're playing PvE, but they're actually controlling the world a little bit. It might be a thing where like more games come out that are combining people on flat screen with people in VR, and they're just two opposite sides of the road. Because obviously that has advantages, and then being on keyboard has advantages, and find a way to combine that multiplayer could be really, really awesome. Like have like a puppet master, so to speak. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to imagine like what type of games are there overall in VR? Like if you had to start breaking down the categories, because you've got your FPSs, but one thing I constantly think about is imagine you're a kid in school. We've grown up going to school thinking you read a book and you kind of imagine things in your head and you look at pictures. And I kind of want to imagine a future where like kids in school can open up can kind of go in with a VR headset and you can quickly generate these worlds that show like I don't know, historical moments, or maybe you want to learn about the savannah and see a lion, man. And the bottleneck I think up until now is that people have to kind of build this stuff and like you have to really create it. But I'm really keen about Google Genie because you can like on the fly create these worlds. And I'm not trying to take away like what people do, but I think just the potential for people all over the world to experience a location in like first person and learn about it, like revolutionize the educational space. I don't know if you have thoughts about that, but that's something I think about so often because you just look at all these different technologies around. You're thinking if I can connect everything and then just amplify the way people experience things, it's I don't know, food for thought. I wonder what you think.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be awesome. I think one of my goals as well going into VR was that I wanted to, let's say, when I have kids and my daughter or son, hopefully son first, wakes up and says, "Hey, Dad, I had this dream and this thing happened." I can go and quickly create that world for him and give him the ability to experience it again for something I really enjoyed. Um, and I think with things like AI, it's really awesome to see how quickly you can create these kind of worlds and experiences for people. Um, I've been thinking about it in terms of, and I think a lot of 3D artists relate to this because there's a lot of people that want to go in to learn how to, do 3D and like make environments and stuff, and things that you might spend like weeks trying to complete. It can just do it in 3 seconds, and that can be demotivating for people in terms of like how that's created. But um, no one is going to. Everyone wants to have the human touch. Everyone wants to be related to that and see people to make that. And I think it's a tool that will allow us to create really, really amazing worlds, and it's not something people should fear. And whether you fear or not, like, you're gonna have to get used to it because it's not going anywhere. So I think being able to create amazing worlds with tools where it's executing things that you might not be able to do yourself or doing it in a faster fashion, um, I think it's a really, really, really awesome thing. And it's scary because it's new. It's scary because there's a lot of uncertainty there. But when we talk about being able to bring kids into like a world we wouldn't be able to design ourselves, or having more control over the experiences that we're creating, giving devs the ability to um, create experiences we haven't seen before. I think that's really something to be excited about. And all the other quirks that we're figuring out in terms of the fears will be figured out through regulations and whatnot. But I'm personally trying to figure out how I can include more of that into my workflow, whether it's in pre-production, whether it's helping me with animation, getting animation reference, things like that. Yeah, it's really, really exciting. Like, even with Seed Dance, man, the things I'm seeing come out, that's been insane. Like, these crossovers. I know Disney's pissed because, like, there's some crossovers that they probably, maybe they planned for it, we're just seeing it already. It's mad. But yeah, it makes me excited to see, like, damn, like, for me, what excites me about it is I just wanted to get rid of the boring stuff. I don't like weight painting. I don't like doing UVs. I don't like rigging.
Yeah.
I haven't got time for that. Like, it's just, I just want to just focus on the storytelling, and I really love animating and cinematography and stuff. Those are the things I want to focus on. So I'm really excited to get to the point where I can not just generate something, but actually go into it and like manipulate it. So for example, instead of it just, because right now it's just videos, like you just type in something, just comes out with a video and you're done. But to what you're saying, imagine if I could type in, generate forest where the rain, whenever it hits the ground, it turns to lava, and the debris, blah 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 blah, and it gives me that, and actually I can actually go into it in VR, also in 3D, and replace the assets, move things around, fix things. That's going to be so powerful than it just saying, okay, cool, just give me a video. That's what I'm really excited for. So yeah, that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, man, the ability to, like, you have that 90-10 rule, right? Like, or what is it? Occam's razor, like 80% of the work, only 20%.
Yeah.
20% is the only thing that's actually valuable. 80% is just, and if AI can do that 80%, that 20% that you can jump in and edit things, man. Again, you go into that forest of the rain that's lava, and you can focus on the storytelling. You can just generate quickly the assets of the people and the characters or whoever, or the blades of grass, and then you can go in and program it specifically. And I think it just amplifies the level of work we can do. And I get the fear. I get the fear that people are thinking in this way of working right now, it will disrupt things. But I think it'll also empower people to build greater and greater experiences to the point where we can revolutionize education or just storytelling the same way the internet did for books, man, or like the video did for books. It's just a new paradigm. And
it does make me think that, because obviously there's so many layoffs happening because of the tech, and it does make me think that being a specialist doesn't really work anymore. Like, if you're just really, really good at one thing, then you're at risk because there's tech that higher ups are just going to see and just try and replace that. I think it's really important more now than ever to work on your skills as a storyteller and a visionary and the big picture side of things, and learning different skills, learning different tool sets to create these worlds, because that's really where you're going to have the ability to take these tools and use it as a tool rather than just be replaced like that. So that's something I'm really, like, every day I'm trying to focus on, like, okay, like, what else can I learn? How can I improve my eye for things like my cinematic eye, my eye to spot, like, whether an animation needs more weight or needs more timing or spacing or anticipation. These kind of things is really going to be beneficial to me for my career. But yeah, it's definitely something I think about. Like, I wonder where else I can upskill that would help me use these tools to the best of my ability. Because, like you said, like, growing up, I just spent a lot of time learning different stuff, and I'm not particularly great at any one of them aside from, like, editing. Editing, I'll say, is my strongest skill, and just the overall direction. So for me, it's really exciting when I can just have things that just help me forget about the stuff I don't enjoy doing. That'd be really cool. One thing I really need is just AI rigging, man. Like, rigging is just a pain in the ass. I can't deal with it, dude. Like, I'm constantly honest. If you're watching this and you're a rigger, like, please reach out to me, because rigging is just, yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but
It's tough, man. I like what you said, how maybe specialization isn't, it used to be the way to go because you could be the best in your class. But if now tech allows you to get to that level of specialization in a pretty above average way, then it's really about connecting the dots and like kind of like your story, really, man. Like you can choreograph, you can direct, you can um, program and like get into Unreal Engine, and you can like do things. You need to connect all those dots to create these experiences. And I think the world is now open to anyone who has a vision, anyone who can really kind of see what they want to create and see all the moving parts around them and leverage the technology to deliver that. Doesn't mean you're not still working with people, but I just think ordinary people are way more empowered, man. And that's, I think that's special, even though it's going to create some disruption. If you're a software developer, Claude Code is doing some incredible stuff, but that just means that you can either up your game or you can start looking at more tools in your arsenal to build
yeah,
more incredible experiences. You're no longer limited to that AAA or that high Hollywood production model if everyone can do stuff.
yeah. I mean, it makes me think as well because I mean, we'll figure it out. We always do, but it makes me think, okay, what's the next thing after that? Um, like what's the next thing that's gonna come in the next generation or like 50 years from now? That isn't AI. That's gonna disrupt the scene and cause fear, but also be really awesome in a lot of ways as well. Like tech is just crazy. Like you have to be ready for anything, really. And you have to have a positive mindset to be able to adapt no matter what, because there's always going to be a silver lining, and it's just up to us how we adapt to it. But yeah, man, it's looking far ahead. It just doesn't really work anymore because you just don't know where things are going to be. It's so funny. You know, when the first AI came out and it was Will Smith eating the spaghetti. I've just watched. I watched a compilation of someone like showing it year by year how it's improved, and now they're making like full short films of him eating spaghetti 3 years later. Um, it's really cool,
It's
and it makes me
exciting.
wonder: like, is there gonna be another tech that is? So you got flat screen gaming, you got VR, you got 3D, you got AI. What's the next acronym that's gonna come along that's gonna like change the scene in gaming? I don't know. I don't
I don't
know.
know. It's got to be
Holograms.
some Matrix stuff. Maybe you just got to get
Or
into your own head, man, and just visualize the stuff that's happening. Or I don't know. Maybe that's too far fetched. But yeah, holograms or
nah, I don't think so. I feel it'd be like augmented reality or something, man. Like literally like Matrix or Ready Player One. I mean, that's still VR, but that's levels, you know, where you're having
yeah.
these neurons implanted in you, and like, maybe I need to rewatch Black Mirror and get some ideas from there. Yeah.
Not so far fetched, man. I want to ask you, what advice do you have for anyone who wants to break into virtual reality, man, or wants to do kind of what you do, but in this future that we're kind of that we're getting set up for? What would you
Yeah.
suggest?
Number one, don't be afraid to be very unapologetic about what your interests are specifically, because um, if you just kind of go for what's safe, as a million other people already doing what you do, really pick something that you're passionate about and speaks to you directly, and that will make it a lot easier to stay motivated to carry on. But if you want to get into VR, practical steps I'll say is, you know, make a YouTube channel, put as much content out there as you can. For me, I landed my first clients through just making basically spec work for games I was really interested in, whether it's Blade Sorcery or Hellsweep or Helldivers or whatever it is. I try to get as much work out there and put it in front of people as possible, because the right person is going to see it and give you an opportunity. Skill up however you can. Make sure that all your time is invested into developing yourself as much as you can, no matter what you're doing. So now when I'm playing games, I play with a completely different eye. Like I'm playing Resident Evil Requiem right now, and the visuals are amazing. But when I'm playing it, I'm not just going along like mindlessly. I'm looking at, okay, where did they put the key light here and how they animating this, and it's really cool how they figured this out. So make sure that you're really developing your eye there as well. And then number three is build your network. Like, it's a shame I can't make it to GDC right now, but yeah, people are the heart of what we do. So finding ways to collaborate with people, building out a team that can help you directly or indirectly, is really awesome. Just because we've all got our goals and our dreams and ambitions, and yeah, everyone's willing to help out, especially in this kind of industry of like gaming and art, and um, yeah, it's always something that people want to learn or teach. So that's my practical advice.
Demo, thank you for coming on the show, man. It's been really cool talking.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.